is Dr. Fred Sylvester from Hanover Chiropractic, and welcome to this edition of Health Talk. Today we're very honored to have our state representative here, Tracy Pennycuick, of the District of 147, just newly elected and sworn in January. So
yes.
Congratulations to you.
Thanks.
It's quite a victory and quite an accomplishment. Your history and your lead up to this is outstanding as always. We look at your service into the military for 26 years, a helicopter pilot.
Yes.
I think it was a liaison between the UN military as well, the UK military.
Yes.
In the defense. Currently doing a lot of nonprofit work with the Veterans Associations.
Yes.
And you are married to Rick and have a family of 4 living in Harleysville.
I do, and 2 grandchildren.
So we're today here is we're trying to kind of navigate our way through what everybody's trying to navigate their way through, is this pandemic and COVID and testing and vaccines and that type of stuff. So I'd like to kind of open up the floor and start to give our viewers a little bit more of the information that what you see behind the curtains,
okay.
In the legislative world and in the government, and also just give some resources to see how we can make this a little bit easier for our population and our community.
Great.
To become safe and effective through the our current treatments that are out there.
Great.
So the first question here is, what is COVID-19?
It's a respiratory viral infection. It has a tendency to hit more of the older population, 65 and older, or those with health issues, diabetes, obesity, heart and lung issues.
Sure. Do you know, when we start to think about like the prevalence, on a state level and a national level, where are we at in Pennsylvania and where are we at in the United States?
So overall, we had about 500,000 that were affected.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania, we had about 26,000 that passed and 500,000 that had it.
Okay.
Those numbers are decreasing every day.
Okay.
A lot because of our mitigation protocols and our vaccination schedules.
Absolutely. So when we look at, I just kind of was reading some of the literature, and as you prep for this show, I think that we're on a downward trend. I think they're still saying there's about 4,000 cases per day that are being confirmed, and then roughly, I'll say anywhere between 45, 50 deaths per day still located
Correct.
in Pennsylvania at this time.
Correct.
But that's downward trending about 8% over the last 2 weeks. What do we kind of associate that with?
Vaccinations.
Yeah.
Nicer weather.
Sure.
People aren't trapped inside, so they're passing the virus among family members. I think people are used to wearing a mask, used to washing their hands,
Sure.
making sure their surfaces are clean. So I think a lot of different factors are leading into that decline.
Wonderful.
But vaccination's the number one.
And again, I think that, when I think of like 1918, and we start thinking of that pandemic at this point, I think the biggest difference, and you can, agree with this as well, is that, back then you had a pandemic that was claiming 50 million people, that was with 2 billion people that have walked this earth. The only difference right now is that we have a vaccine compared to them not having a vaccine, which
Correct.
they were probably wanting and wishing that they had. So when it comes to that concept, and we see some vaccine hesitancy that is kind of coming out, what do you think is one of the things that is fueling some of the hesitancy of people to be vaccinated?
I think people are hesitant because it came on so quickly.
Okay.
Operation Warp Speed got the vaccination within a year. I think there's that fear that it came so quickly it must not be proven, which is not the case. It had multiple trials. Each vaccination had different groups, age groups, demographics that were tested. So I think at the end of the day, you just have to trust the science behind it, and you just need to get vaccinated.
And I think some of the things I want to add to that as well is that, when we're looking at, the technology of messenger RNA, that has been in use since 1999. It started with breast cancer,
Right.
and then it made its leap over into virology in about 2010, 2012, and then it became part of the vaccine family for flu, Zika, and I think hepatitis in 2016. So all those vaccines since that point have been
Right.
messenger RNA.
Absolutely.
People just didn't really know.
I don't think it was publicized, to be honest. I think it was
Sure.
kind of a medical arena only.
For sure.
So there was a lot of comfort with that and a lot of familiarity, but the general public didn't know that.
Absolutely.
So that created some concerns, some hesitancy.
And then I also think that, bringing to the attention of our viewers is that SARS-1 back in 2000, 2001, when that was at this point, that research wasn't just dumped. This research
Correct.
was,
Right.
built upon, and this is where we have today. And then you have the many professionals that have been, dedicated to solving this. Has been, almost superhero-like over the last, say, year or two, develop this current vaccine that we have. That's what I think
Absolutely.
people don't understand, and our general public don't understand.
I think a perfect example of that is J&J
Yes.
went to Merck for production of their vaccination to expand distribution and expand availability. And that's unheard of,
That is.
really, before this pandemic, that two competing drug companies would work together, but they are working together.
The
And
collaboration.
the collaboration is amazing. The FDA worked to get these vaccinations out. The National Guard coming on board to get it out to the rural areas and the senior population. So it's a huge effort.
For sure. So some of the concerns that that I've been hearing from my own general practice and that type of stuff is that with the rollout of we'll say the vaccine, we started with the tiers back in February,
We did.
and now we're to more of a general population. Can you explain that and how a person would go about registering for a vaccine, because that seemed to be a little bit of a hiccup.
It
in the
was a
beginning.
hiccup in the beginning. It was difficult for people to navigate, especially our older citizens, to navigate how to get on and log on and register. Now you don't even need to do that anymore.
Okay.
You can do a walk-in at any of the county locations that are just distributing the vaccination. You can go to Walmart, you can go to Target, you can go to CVS and get a vaccination. It's almost any pharmacy at this point. You can do a walk-in and just ask for it.
So when you say walk-in, does that mean you have to register for this? Do you have
do
to
not.
call, or you show up and...
CVS requires you to go on their website just to check availability and
Okay.
to register to basically book an appointment. But most Walmarts and most Targets are walk-in only.
Okay.
You can just walk in.
Where are we at with max vaccination sites? Is the state doing any of that type of stuff like Florida does and Texas is doing?
We are not. We
Okay.
are not. We have individual pharmacies that are doing that, but we are not at the point in Pennsylvania where we're doing mass vaccination of thousands of people a day because it's so widely distributed now.
Gotcha.
We don't need to.
Do you know what the stat is right now? How many people we're vaccinating per day in Pennsylvania?
I do not know that, but I will tell you that right now, 33% of our population is fully vaccinated,
Okay.
and about 52% are first dose vaccinated. So we're getting there.
Do we have any data on how many of those first dosers, are going to become second dosers or fully vaccinated? Can we determine that, or is that something that
It's
is...
it rolls because
Okay.
it's the third week they get
Okay.
their second vaccination, so it's rolling.
Gotcha.
But we do have J&J, was just reintroduced back into the market, so that will increase our numbers substantially.
Absolutely. So when we look at we have J&J, we have Pfizer, we have Moderna at this time. When we look at their rollout and their vaccines they're looking at, can you comment on the safety and efficacy of what you know about with those vaccines?
So Moderna and Pfizer, which are the two dose, are about 95% effective. J&J is about 74% effective. The nice thing about all three is you're not going to be hospitalized if you do get corona. It's going to lessen your symptoms to a mild flu.
Wonderful. And I think like I said, preparing for this is what we're looking at is that when you're looking at what that means is that 95% efficacy rate, it means that 5 out of 100 could come down with COVID-19. But I think just to kind of dovetail off of what you're saying, out of those 5 that would get it, they wouldn't be hospitalized, and
Correct.
they're almost 100% guaranteed recoverable at this point.
Absolutely.
And that is not a guarantee if you do get COVID. And that's one of the things that I think our viewers need to know as well. From the component of not only the obvious of why you should get vaccinated, not to have disease and have death at this point, but from the inconvenience of this thing, of this pandemic, how would you describe the benefits of the vaccines on that end of it as well? Wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, indoor activity,
Sure.
testing.
I think everyone has had their life completely cut off, if you will, with COVID. The vaccination opens up your world again.
Okay.
You're able to go outside without a mask, inside without a mask if everyone else is vaccinated. It allows you to interact, get back to normal, open up your business, open up your school.
Sure.
I think that's really the most important, especially for our children. They need to be back in school. They need that social interaction. They need that educational opportunity.
Absolutely. Do we have any prediction when we would possibly reach the 70% landmark, 75% landmark?
We actually think it'll
benchmark?
be in June. We actually think it'll be next month.
How about that?
Yeah.
And
So by the end of June, beginning of July, we should be at that benchmark.
so explain what that world looks like at 70%. What's that? What is that?
That's herd immunity.
Uh-huh.
So that means that there's very few people that the virus can jump to within the population. So it dies a natural death.
Okay.
The virus dies off. It doesn't find a new person to jump to. That means we pretty much open up again.
Wow.
So we
And
should
we'd
see.
be looking at something between 4 and 6 weeks is everything
Correct.
continues our trajectory at this point.
Absolutely.
Do you know on the national level what that would be looking like too? Is that still June mark too?
It's July mark.
Okay.
It's end of June, beginning of July as well. So we should be about the same time.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
So have we noticed any types of, I'll say, downward trends in people wanting to get vaccines? So, you know, you get that initial rush that usually goes in, feeling that last 20%. If we're at 50%, that last 20, 25%, do we anticipate any slowing of the distribution of vaccines and the enthusiasm for people to be vaccinated?
I don't anticipate that there's a slowing. I think what you're seeing is people are starting to figure out, I'm going to need to get the vaccination if I want to travel. There's almost an incentive. You want to do this activity, you've got to be vaccinated. If you want to travel internationally, you have to be vaccinated. I think if you want to go into nursing homes, you're going to need to be vaccinated. If you're, grandparents are in a nursing home, you're going to need to be vaccinated. If you want to go back to school, you're going to need to be vaccinated. If you're
Is
at
that
the
at all
university level,
Okay.
just the universities. In my opinion, right now, it seems like Philadelphia universities are requiring their students to be vaccinated.
I know Rutgers led the way, and I think Duke and Michigan and Carolina have all kind of followed suit. So we're seeing that same trend.
Yes.
In
Well,
our,
and think about it. The kids are living together in
yeah.
dorms.
Yeah,
They're
for sure.
close. They don't social distance. They probably don't wear masks. So it makes good sense for them to, keep an opportunity at bay of having a mass outbreak.
So the last kind of piece of this is, do you see a vaccination card coming?
I do not.
Okay.
So that is a huge
Absolutely.
issue. It's an invasion of privacy. It's
Okay.
a HIPAA violation. And it gets into the personal nitty-gritty of individuals' health care. So I don't see it coming.
Okay.
I
fair
don't
enough.
at all. And I think there would be huge opposition if it was
Like
even
coming in.
suggested, yeah.
So as a wrap-up, what is your take-home message with all this? It's been a whirlwind of a year.
It has been. It has been.
And you're coming into the fire of it all.
I
so.
am. I think my message is get vaccinated, get your life back, get back to work. It's just like measles, it's just like smallpox, the flu shot, get vaccinated, protect yourself, protect your family, and get back to work and school and your life.
That's awesome. Good day and good health.